This is not the song I wanted.
Just turn it up anyway. That's the end song.
Is it the end one?
I don't know. I think that's the one he plays at the end.
What are you guys doing?
We don't know. Yeah, this got a little beat. This is a good intro.
Turn it up a little bit.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Midweek Fix. Obviously, Choc Knox is not in the studio, but as you can see, he's at the Southern Baptist Convention, and he's tuning in live from the floor, actually from the founders booth, with our brother, no longer executive committee member, Rod Martin, in the house. Oh, you are? Oh, we're gonna have to hear about that. All right, that's good. Hey guys, make sure the conference registration is live.
That's
now.
what he says.
It's live.
I would go check right now and see if it's real.
My COO doesn't like it, but go to fightlaughfeast.com, tap on the Tennessee conference, and you can actually start registering for the conference now. And if you're a club member, you can actually just log into the club portal to register with your club discount and all that stuff. And of course, if you aren't a club member, you can become a club member and you can get a discount at the conference. Also, we got, the speaker lineup is just getting loaded.
I don't see any link here for the conference.
Yeah, you do. No, it says
I'm not trying to
conference.
start no stuff. I'm not trying to start no stuff, but is Rob Martin a part of that speaker conference? I'm just wondering. Rob's going to be there?
Hey, now.
Hey, we're working on.
We can discuss that.
Why not? It's live. Let's have that conversation now.
Let me finish this. Let me finish my intro. Don't interrupt me.
All right. I see. I found it.
Did you find it? It's
I
very
found
easy.
the registration. It's there.
You just click under events, conference. Under events, click on conference. But if you aren't a club member, become a club member, and you can get a discount, $100 off at the conference for your family, or $100 off for individual registration. And everything.
That's enough of that.
Yeah,
Enough of that.
There you go.
All right. So, Knox and Rod, how did Ed Litton get elected?
Tell me who.
That's a good question. Why don't you go ahead and take a stab at that?
I reckon I will. Yes. So we had an amazing time yesterday. It didn't go quite our way, but it was actually a phenomenally successful defeat when you consider. First of all, we have a first-time candidate, not well known in the SBC, although he's been president of the Georgia Baptist Convention. He's been chairman of the executive committee. Mm-hmm. But you tell me how many chairmen of the executive committee you can name. Yeah. You know, this is not a widely nationally known name like Adrian Rogers was in 1979. And on the first ballot, Mike Stone came first. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. He was quite a ways ahead of Ed Litton. He was dramatically ahead of Al Mohler.
Right.
Of course, everybody thought it was just a shoe-in. Al came a distant third.
Wow.
So on the second ballot, it turned out that a few more Mohler people broke to Litton than broke to us. And so we were separated by about 600 votes on the final ballot, but 1,300 people had left the room. And we don't know how many of those were ours, but it was probably enough. You can't know. But it was an incredibly successful first run, not just for Mike Stone, but for the Conservative Baptist Network. Yeah. And I feel incredibly good about our prospects going forward. Now, I haven't heard final results on Javier Chavez's race for second vice president of the SBC, but our candidate, Lee Brand, won first vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention. So we've been doing well here. We have not done so well on some of the motions, some of the resolutions. I would point out as to Resolution 2, which some of your viewers are following, the SBC elites on the very, very much ensconced upon the Resolutions Committee brought forward a resolution that they deliberately wanted to please everybody. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't please me insofar as they did not even name critical race theory by name at all. Mm-hmm. But if you take the resolution literally, it condemns critical race theory. It condemns all these things we've been railing against. And I think that they are being disingenuous in that regard. And a lot of people on the platform clearly were. But nevertheless, if it were a normal year, you'd think it was a really good resolution. So we didn't do as badly on that as perhaps we felt like we did. The platform, by which I mean pretty much J.D. Greer, absolutely shut down opposition at Mike's over and over. On that particular one, we had people stationed at 6 different microphones, and somehow magically none of them were called on at all. Wow. I mean, it's just completely let's just say it's statistically improbable that happens in a fair meeting. And nothing from the platform really was done fairly. It was really a travesty in many, many respects. And yeah, I mean, the other team ran the table all day. There's no question they won, but they didn't win by much. And I want to tell you, if only out of record attendance in modern times, I mean, in 25 years, we haven't had such a turnout, and we only lose the presidency by about 350 votes.
Right.
I'm telling you, the conservatives are on the march. The Conservative Baptist Network is a very viable force. And I'll tell you what else. If Al Mohler had the sense to come and work with us when we announced CBN instead of publicly mocking us, I have a feeling that a lot of CBN members would have been for him, and there might not have ever been a Mike Stone candidacy. So honestly, my good friend Al Mohler has only himself to blame for his crash and burn.
Right. Do you think that this
Al Mohler for a second? No, hold on. You don't understand.
Okay. All right.
Sit in for a second. All right, you can go.
What?
Just go.
Okay.
I think that was very fair.
do you think Al Mohler's kind of his influence, his major influence on the Southern Baptist Convention is kind of dissipated now after this rollout?
Well, there were a couple interesting things there. Okay, so first, a lot of the attacks yesterday, and I don't mean from the floor, I mean from the powers that be, were clearly directed at Ronnie Floyd, who is the president of the executive committee. Now, understand, president and chairman are different. Chairman is the guy elected to chair the committee from among the committee members. President is the full-time staff member who leads the entity day to day.
Okay.
And Ronnie Floyd, of course, being former senior pastor at Cross Church for 31 years, huge church, biggest church in Arkansas, and one of the biggest in the country. And Ronnie's relatively new in that job. He came, just a relatively short time ago, but he came just at the moment when the Jen Lyle lawsuit needed to be settled, and he settled that. I don't know if he should have settled it or fought it. That's hindsight, and I wasn't even on the EC then. But he settled the suit, and Jen Lyle is very much back in force attacking the executive committee. A bunch of the sex abuse advocates are out in force attacking the executive committee over that and other things that were raised in the two Russell Moore letters, which I got to tell you, every single person I have spoken to who was on the EC or the EC staff at the time those things allegedly happened says that everything Russell said about it is a pack of lies. And for one guy to come out with a leaked letter, 2 weeks before an election, doesn't look at all fishy to me, obviously. So, this is aimed at blowing holes in Ronnie Floyd and also Mike Stone.
Message.
But the whole Ronnie Floyd thing is fascinating because he has been one of the absolute foremost statesmen of the Southern Baptist Convention for decades. And the unanimity with which the new version of the elites, now that Mohler has kind of been shunted aside and the new kids are much more in charge, they clearly want Ronnie Floyd fired. And it couldn't have been plainer yesterday in motion after motion after speech after speech. And that's really something to watch. And at the same time, you asked about Mohler, and I don't think Al Mohler's going anywhere. I think he's going to be president of Southern Seminary probably until he dies. But clearly, the center of gravity in the convention has moved away from him. The left very much toward Litton and some of the younger guys, the right very much in the direction of CBN. And I think that is a bit of an earthquake. Al has spent a lifetime trying to make everybody happy. And for once, he was able to make absolutely no one happy.
Right. So I think this is one thing that too. Message. There's so much that. So, did you see that coming? Because I didn't see that coming.
I actually kind of did. I mean, I wasn't sure of it, but I felt like, look, here's Al's problem when you get right down to it. In 2016, he was a never Trumper, and he continued that for years. And then, he he would not stand on the floor in Birmingham against Resolution 9.
Right.
And he actually helped Tom Askell draft the good amendment that failed that would have made Resolution 9 decent. And then at the last minute tells Askell, well, I just can't stand against a faculty member at the SBC. Well, the faculty member, of course, is Curtis Woods, who was chairman of the Resolutions Committee, who was all in on critical race theory and intersectionality. Right. So he backs off at the last minute, but wait, he attacks it 2 days later on the briefing. Well, which is it, Al? Come on. Yep. So at the moment at which 30 seconds of verbiage would have killed it 90-10, he allowed the SBC to pass something it didn't understand that has horribly divided the denomination now for 2 years. And I mean, it is the albatross around all of their necks. They're all backpedaling from it desperately. Right. And there wouldn't be a conservative Baptist network if they hadn't passed Resolution 9. Yeah. So this has just been a nightmare for them and for us and for the world. And Al gave it to you. So then last year he comes back and endorses Trump, and he puts out this statement attacking CRT. Again, you can't please everybody if you're going to nuke everybody. Right. And so he lost his left flank to Ed Litton. He lost his right flank to us. And, I mean, there's just no coming back from that.
Knox,
that's an interesting analysis. That's helpful.
I want to hear.
I'm just going to be his hype man.
No, I want to hear from you, Knox.
Look, I mean,
I want to hear from you.
Is an important figure in SBC life, and I'm sure he always will be. And none of this is personal. I'm just saying he played that about as badly politically as he's played everything else in his life well.
Yeah. So, Knox, you've been there. You've been a fly on the wall. I don't know. You've been, I don't know how many fist fights you got into while you were there. I don't know how many babies you baptized without my permission, but
there was one there. There's actually a baby in the convention. I saw it.
But I'm just curious. What's your take on all this? What's been going on? What do you see?
Okay, so Rod's inside. He knows what's going on. He's a Southern Baptist Presbyterian guy. Just want to support my brothers here. And I'm just watching. And for me, I'm watching a certain form of polity. Is that the right church polity? Can give I was talking to somebody earlier, and I said, when we were talking about freeing the slaves, we used certain sort of arguments to say that why we couldn't do it. Where do we put all these free black people? They can't read, they can't write.
Yeah.
Can we send them over back on boats to Africa? Well, that's not going to work. And because we couldn't figure out a system, we allowed a certain sin to continue to permeate our culture because of our politics. And what I'm seeing here right now, from my perspective, is a certain form of politics allowing certain things to remain that we should be repenting of. And watching when Tom Askell got up, was it Monday morning? I think it was, to make a motion to rescind Resolution 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tuesday morning.
Was it Tuesday morning? Tuesday morning to rescind Resolution 9. I expected at that point for him to be ruled out of order. I expected that he probably would have the same kind of support that I thought he would. It was amazing how many people just shouted in praise of that. And yet, it was amazing to watch the politics that came up afterwards, I think it's today, that basically said we can't rescind a resolution for the most part because it was of a convention of old. So we can't rescind those resolutions.
We can't take back their opinion. It's their opinion, and we can't say they can't have it.
Right. But the problem is it's the same convention that was...
I completely agree. Of course you can rescind a resolution. It's plain as day in Robert's Rules of Order. There is a custom at the SBC that we don't do that, but Robert's Rules absolutely say you can. Okay. And on a different issue, where we had a gentleman, Tom Tucker, who is a professional evangelist from South Carolina, he's the sitting vice chairman of the executive committee. The liberals replaced him for his second term. They're putting in an Obama supporter. I kid you not.
Wow.
In place of a Southern Baptist evangelist, the sitting just reelected vice chairman of the committee. And in that argument, by the way, they tried to replace somebody in 2018 the same way at that convention. And the convention overwhelmingly kept the guy who was already there because by custom, they always get a second term, and that's just right, and that's how it's always done. today from the platform. One of the guys who actually argued on behalf of the other position in 2018 was up there this year saying, oh, tradition doesn't matter. Custom doesn't matter. It's just what the rule says. Well, okay. On Tom Askell's thing, it's not what the rule says. Then a little bit later, we had a motion to amend one of the seminary's seminary report for the year, which violated the rules of order in multiple respects. And we're told from the platform that though the bylaw 31 of the SBC says plainly that messengers may amend an institution's report from the floor, they ruled that the bylaw means exactly the opposite of what it says. So again, the platform was grossly unfair on issue after issue, playing fast and loose with the rules, interpreting however it served their political interests again and again and again. It was shameful.
And this is the thing, and watching brothers play by the rules, and brothers who are playing by the rules are getting broken right now. Their hearts are breaking because they're like, we're doing everything the way that you said do it, and we're watching you use the rules to keep in certain protecting basics, protecting your traditions. And when we're trying to talk, you work for us.
Yeah.
Right? When you work for us, and when we're trying to talk, you're shutting us down. And this just reminds me so much of when Jesus talked about Korban, right? Yeah. You have used the law.
Actually, yes.
You have used the law to scapegoat, to get out of taking care of your parents. And said, I'm going to pledge my money to the church so that I don't have to take care of my parents. Right. Well, you should do that. That's a good thing to do. That's a good thing to do is give your money to the church. But your responsibility and what you're doing is sinning because you're trying to get out of your responsibility of holding what the standard is.
Right. Yeah.
And watching that take place, that's the exact situation we're in. And you don't get out of that with some sort of polity. You get out of that with a prophet.
Yeah.
Right. You get out of that with a man of God that comes through and starts flipping over tables. That's right. I don't know where we're at and how that looks right now, but I mean, it's. But you don't do.
I do. We were 350 votes away from having a prophet. That's it. Out of 14,000.
Yeah.
I mean, flip 350 votes and you have a completely different outcome. And that's the thing I've been telling you guys on the show for a while now.
Yeah.
This is not the Catholic Church where they go off and they pick a pope and there's nothing you can do about it. This is not the Episcopalian Church where you've got apostolic succession. This is any of those institutions that are impossible for the people to have a say in. This is an institution that every single year, if the people would just show up, they can own it. Yeah. And truly, we have 50,000 churches out there. We had 14,000 people in the room, which is amazing and incredible and almost double what we normally have. Wow. But if we had 350 more, not 350,000 more, 350 more people, the outcome would have been completely different and in the favor of the vast majority of Southern Baptists. Wow. So again, the answer isn't to take your toys and go home. The answer is to show up and be counted, be men of Issachar, know the times and what to do. And for heaven's sake, remember that this is all a stewardship operation. The SBC is not a church. Your local church is a church. Right. The SBC is a stewardship mission for the tithe money of the saints. And for heaven's sake, I don't want to stand before Jesus and explain why we didn't try to steward it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, most of the people I talk to here, Rob, are they're the first time coming, the first time being here, the first time. Some people were asking me as a Presbyterian, what just happened? I'm like, let me tell you my last time. Okay, I'm trying to go because I've learned a lot and it's important. But one of the things I've told them as they come and say, man, I just got beat down. I feel like I was dragged through the mud. And our church is now considering leaving. And this is me as a Presbyterian telling them, you don't have the equity to leave yet. No! You haven't sweat and put enough blood in to buy that
That's
ticket.
Right.
Amen.
And
That's right.
When you see guys like you and other brothers like Tom Askell who have been in the part of the conservative resurgence and brothers end up fighting like that, you don't leave your brother when he's getting jumped.
Yeah.
You don't leave your brother to good fight. You get in there with them.
In the last 2 weeks, I got accused of covering up sex abuse and things. This is insane. I wasn't even on the executive committee when the things they're talking about happened, and the things they're talking about at the executive committee mostly didn't even happen at the executive committee. Wow. I wasn't even there. But we're taking slings and arrows all day long. Yeah. A handful of people sitting out in blog world, talking about, we're giving up now. We've done everything we can do. You didn't even show up. Come to the blooming meeting.
Yeah,
and come again.
Right.
Come again.
Wow.
So-
I've been here every year since 1990, and I ain't quit.
Yeah.
Message.
So, first of all, I want to point out Knox' solid theonomic argument earlier. Good work, man. Way to bring that in.
What?
Your solid theonomic argument that you brought in earlier with Corbin and Matthew.
Oh,
good
okay.
work.
Yeah,
good work on
you're
that.
welcome for that.
Yeah.
You know. Baked in the cake, baby. It's baked in the cake.
Rod, you're on the executive committee. I heard you got removed or kicked off, and then you're back on it again. What happened?
No, I was not removed from the executive committee, but I did lose my reelection as an officer of the executive committee, which obviously, from my point of view, is a real shame. There were clearly some people who disagree with that. But the fact is, if you lead from the front, you're going to get shot sometimes.
Sure.
And I have not been quiet.
Yep.
I have been repeatedly told I need to be quiet. I get lectured quite a bit by EC staff members about my coming on your show and things like that. And I can understand their point of view. I know we're all supposed to be good children and do what we're told by the employees, but well, maybe so. But the truth of the matter is, I think Baptist leaders were probably elected to actually lead.
Yeah.
And it might be good if more EC members were vocal rather than less.
Yeah.
So yes, I did lose my reelection. I to be fair, I didn't actually lose it because you had to get to a vote of you had to get to 40 votes to win, and my opponent could not get to 40, and neither could I. And at a certain point, we were going to be there all day, and I bowed out, in favor of my friend who will not vote the way that I do, but he is a good man, and I really love him and respect him. And so I'm not an officer, but if anything, that's probably a mistake on their part because now I can just be even more vocal.
Well, and now you can come on the Fight Laugh Feast network now.
Well, to be fair, I actually have a lot more time now. It's amazing how much time being an officer did take.
Yep.
And so I will have a little bit more.
So we've got some things.
Yeah. I just want to say that I don't know if people know this about us, but we're some jolly guys. If you disagree with us, we would love nothing more than to talk to those people who disagree with us.
Yeah.
And who
exactly.
challenge us. And that's how we as brothers want to engage. For us, we can have a beer. Y'all can have a Dr. Pepper. Yeah. We might have a cigar.
It's like a root beer.
Okay, with root beer.
Yeah, there you go.
But we want to facilitate, godly conversation that I don't think we all have rough edges, and if we can rub that off on each other and show people how to do it in a godly way, that's why we're here at CP, and that's what we want to do.
Amen.
We know we disagree.
Yeah.
He's a Baptist. I'm a Presbyterian. I want to completely waterboard him. He wants to drown me. We're going to get along. But my point is to say is that we're always open to having that conversation. So anybody on the EC wants to come on and challenge us and say, hey, we don't like that. Man, come on, let's have the conversation. I'll grab some popcorn and let's chat it up like brothers and get to the bottom of it.
Amen.
I invite that.
Amen.
I invite that. That's where then if there's something we need to repent of, don't go over there. Come to us.
Right.
Let's do this Matthew 18. Let's have the conversation private and see if we can have it public and show people how to act godly. So I just want to always put that invitation out there.
Amen.
Well, first of all, I strongly second that. But second, I think that's a much wiser course of action for the leadership of the EC right now.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, the current leadership has gone to shocking lengths to try to pretend that everything is just fine.
Yeah.
And a perfect example, my friend Ronnie Floyd, who helped engineer my removal as an officer, my friend Ronnie Floyd stood up before the EC on Monday and gave 4 reasons that we have record turnout. And it's not even a small record. I mean, this is double the number of messengers we have had in 25 years. It's an extraordinary turnout. And he gives 4 reasons for this. And among the reasons were things like the EC has done an especially good job this year of promoting the meeting. And, my personal favorite, Baptists didn't get to meet last year, and they're just hungry to be together. Yeah, I'm sure that was it. Didn't mention critical race theory. Didn't mention a 4-way presidential election. Didn't mention any of the things that Baptists are actually discussing, including the sex abuse issue.
Right.
That honestly, I don't think the way we tackled it on the floor of the convention was the right way to do it. I think there's some real flaws in what they're trying to do there, but attacking sex abuse is the right thing to do. And I said in my statement about the EC investigation the other day, and y'all probably saw it on Twitter, I said flat out, I believe these men, they're godly men. I believe that the things that are being discussed did not happen under their watch. But if they did, I will personally lead the charge to hang them high.
Yeah.
I mean, we will find the nearest scaffold and just hang them ourselves. There will be zero tolerance of sex abuse at all.
Right.
So even on that, the leadership will not stand up and address the issue head on. They would rather talk about, all these people are just coming because they're happy to be together. This is nuts. And if they would come on your show and other shows and honestly engage about the issues that Baptists are caring about enough to produce a record turnout at this convention, the SBC would be a lot healthier and everything would be better for everybody.
Okay, so
on the sex abuse thing, real quick, I think didn't Jared Longshore have some kind of motion where he was going to bring something up at SBC about
Russell Moore?
looking into Russell Moore's letters and stuff? Did that go anywhere or do anything?
Yes.
So go ahead.
You can do it if you want. Well, I want to say this, and then he can have at it.
I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Sure. But, yeah, the point Jared was making correctly is that if Russell Moore's parting Molotov cocktail had any truth in it, and, we've heard the term disgruntled ex-employee. I mean, seriously, he leaks two, not just one, but two letters in the span of a week that just happened to attack all of the people he most hates in the world. Right. Specifically Ronnie Floyd and Mike Stone, who initiated and led the investigative task force into the ERLC.
Right.
Oh, not an accident that Russell wants them investigated back. And second, of course, he also might have mentioned one other member of the executive committee, some Martin fella from Florida.
Oh,
yeah, that guy. Okay, because he really hates me. Okay, so he drops bombs on people on the way out the door. We're supposed to take this seriously, and Jared's motion was aimed square at that.
Right.
If Russell Moore has known of evil white nationalist, sex abuser, racist types all through the SBC for 18 months and informed his board 18 months ago, and they covered it up for 18 months, they need to be investigated.
Yep.
And that is a completely legitimate point. They weren't talking to us. They didn't say anything to us. Mm-hmm. They didn't do any Matthew 18 stuff. They didn't do any investigative stuff. They didn't do any press releases. They didn't do anything. They wait until it is politically beneficial to Russell Moore to make these outrageous false claims.
Right.
And they better be outrageous and false, or Russell Moore engaged in an 18-month cover-up.
Right.
And let's just say they're true for a second. Who wants to be those people who hoped that Russell Moore would have spoke for them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, who wants to be? And this is something serious for me. If I'm a black guy and I'm dealing with racism with my Christian brothers, and my brother knows that I'm dealing with this stuff, and I'm thinking that he's going to go for bat for me because he's holding a position of power, and instead what he does is use me as a token, to be able to move politically, like you said, so that he can accomplish the goal that he wants to accomplish with my hurt.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And look, we have a credentials committee process precisely because Russell and JD pushed for it. And by the way, I'm all for that. That's fine. I think some of the implementation could be tweaked, but the point is sound. We don't want churches in our denomination that endorse or abet racism or sex abuse. That's all got to go. That's completely good. But my point remains. I looked all of the people that he claims did something wrong in the eye, and these are pastors and lay people of the utmost credibility for years. So I have every reason to believe that the Bible is accurate, because, God wrote it and all. When it says that I will not even entertain a charge against an elder except on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses.
That's right.
I went to each and every one of them, and I asked them point blank. I looked them in the eye, and I said, and I did this to Ronnie and to Roland Slate, our chairman, repeatedly by Zoom and in person. And I said, are you guilty? And they all said no. Do you know anyone who did any of these things? I do not.
Yeah.
And I told them all, and I looked them all in the eye, and I said, if you're lying to me, I will be the one coming for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
This will not end. I will not rest. And you're not getting me off the EC. And sure enough, they didn't.
Yeah.
And so I will make their life a living hell if they're lying. But if they aren't lying, you've got a bunch of godly men with reputations going back decades who got slandered by one guy on his way out the door, who, by the way, switched denominations immediately. We've been told all this time about how he's a faithful adherent to the Baptist faith and message. He's an entity head. He ought to be. But no, out the door, straight to a church of a different theological persuasion, throwing bombs at everybody.
Yeah.
Come on. We know what this is. It's a political hit.
Yeah.
The other thing, so I wanted to answer your question about with Jared.
Yeah.
His motion, that was a motion, right? I believe it was sent off to the ERLC to consider.
Okay.
That's true.
Of course.
It's ridiculous.
Of
What's
course.
amazing about that, though, is the fact that I believe people got mad at Ronnie Floyd because he decided to put together an outside entity that he chose to investigate the executive committee, and they were mad because he chose the outside group.
Okay.
Well, what does that mean when the ERLC gets to decide on whether or not they are going to choose to be investigated?
Oh, I know. It's completely ridiculous.
Right.
The
whole attack on Ronnie Floyd is that he's picking the investigation as if he's investigating himself. And that's completely not true.
Right.
The outside investigation is to be conducted by a group called Guidepost Solutions, which is exactly the group that Al Mohler used at Southern Seminary and exactly the group that Rachel Den Hollander, the sex abuse victims advocate and attorney, has been telling Ronnie Floyd she wanted him to hire to investigate the EC for 3 years mostly on the Jen Lyle case, which, of course, is the genesis of this now. Jen Lyle was not abused at the EC. I mean, I understand her argument that she was. What happened is Baptist Press ran a story that didn't take her side of the story. And so she sued the EC, and in mediation, the EC decided to settle her defamation claim. As you know, she claims that and I say claims not to impugn Jen Lyle, but just because I don't know, and there hasn't been a court that's adjudicated it, and I don't want to slander anybody.
Right.
But Jen Lyle claims that she was abused over a 12-year period by Professor David Sills from Southern Seminary and then later other places. And that story has been well publicized. So her claim against the EC was defamation, not abuse.
Right.
And that happened when... Well, actually, I'm not sure if it was Frank Page or Augie Bodo who was president of the EC at the time. We had the interim period after Frank quit and, Augie was president. But it was before Ronnie even showed up. The only thing Ronnie had to do with it was to settle the case. And Mike Stone wasn't involved in it at all. And I wasn't even on the EC. And that's who Russell hits. So, it's just a political head job. It's ridiculous. But if there was wrongdoing and I find out about it, I will be going after these guys because they will have lied to me, and I will not tolerate that any more than I'll tolerate the sex abuse.
Right. So what do you we got to wrap this up here, but what do you expect to happen today? It sounds like there's going to be a lot of debate around resolutions. What's going to happen today?
It's over for the most part, isn't it?
Largely over at 3 or 3:30. I believe we still have an abortion resolution that we're going to debate, and there might be one other. And again, I would note there have been a slew of these things that were really aimed squarely at Ronnie Floyd, and one of them in particular had to do with who has the right to enforce the rights of the Southern Baptist Convention as sole member of the different entities. What that has to do with is the removal by Southwestern Seminary of 2 of its trustees. They were litigants in a case that Southwestern brought against another foundation that they were also on the board of, and the Southwestern president, Adam Greenway, decided to just remove them from the board. Well, with great respect to my friend Adam Greenway, Texas law doesn't really let you suspend trustees. I'm pretty sure I know a little more about Texas law than my good friend Adam. And you can't suspend a trustee without that being a removal. That is just what the Texas Business Organizations Code says. And so they suspend these guys. Well, look, if an entity can suspend a trustee or remove a trustee, the whole idea of sole membership is a dead letter. You know, only the Southern Baptist Convention has the right to elect or remove a trustee. And Ronnie Floyd and the attorneys at the EC sent them a strongly worded letter, saying, hey, you guys can't do that. You can do a lot of things, but you can't do that.
Right.
And they didn't try to do anything to them. They just advised them that this wasn't acceptable under our system. And Southwestern, let's just say, reacted poorly to that.
You mentioned
this resolution was passed.
You mentioned
as a vote of no confidence in Ronnie Floyd, and I'm the biggest surprise actually this week is the degree to which the seminary presidents and other leaders of the convention united against Ronnie Floyd.
Huh.
I just find that amazing, and I'm sure it's not over.
You mentioned the abortion resolution that's on the table. I heard that it's going to be voted on the floor or something like that.
Debated and voted.
What do you suspect is going to come out of that?
That's amazing. So first of all, just a part of that story that's amazing. So they submitted this resolution. This resolution wasn't accepted. And then Bill Askell gets up there and just pulls off. I mean, just if you want a lesson in rhetoric and winning the room, it was amazing. First of all, there's a lot of things I want to say about that. When you're in a room with about 20,000 people, something like 17,000.
15,000.
Okay.
And you bring a baby,
and you have to convince them.
Yeah.
Brilliant, first of all. But you have to convince them to bring out a resolution that the resolutions committee didn't think it was necessary to bring out. The way you have to communicate to those people to understand that this is necessary to get a 2/3 vote takes a lot of wit and intelligence to do. And what he got up there and did to get that resolution pulled out was brilliant. And so he got it pulled out. And I think they're going to decide today on whether or not to have that resolution voted on. Right?
Yes, that's my understanding of it. And by the way, that is a resolution calling for the abolition of abortion. Yeah. And I was so disappointed in James Merritt, who's former SBC president, chairman of the Resolutions Committee. He and his committee made the argument that we have had enough resolutions on abortion. We don't need any more. Everybody knows where the Southern Baptist Convention stands on abortion. Well, excuse me, we have a resolution on slavery pretty much every year from 1995 to the present. There hasn't been a slave in this country other than human trafficking in a century and a half. We have babies being slaughtered this instant in America. All across this country, babies are being murdered.
Right.
And the Southern Baptist Convention doesn't need to speak to that. Right. I think their priorities are completely whacked.
Let me pause you right there. If we say that we care about black people the way we say we care about black people, there isn't a place where more black people are being killed in America than the abortion clinics right now.
Right.
And to not push for the abolition of abortion tells me how you really feel about black people.
If you care about black people, you'll stop murdering their babies. If you care about women, you'll stop killing women babies.
That to me is like a disconnect in the logic that I can't seem to understand. Like when I saw that, I'm thinking you have black people committing genocide at 3 times the rate of white people, and you're sitting here soft on abortion?
Yeah.
I don't believe you for 1 second when you say you care about that. That hurts.
Hey, I'm
waiting to see what happens this afternoon because hopefully there's some redemption there. I believe in repentance. So
we can apologize for things people did before I was born forever. I mean, that's fine. We can do that every year. I don't have a big problem with that. But what on earth are we doing not dealing with a current moral crisis?
Right.
We're talking about millions of infants being slaughtered all the time. But from the platform, we are told by our resolutions committee, appointed by J.D. Greer, that we don't need to address that because, hey, people have heard enough of that.
Wow.
I was shocked. Wow. I was shocked even coming from from those guys. I couldn't believe I heard it.
Praise God for the messengers for that 2/3 vote to decide to come out and say, no, we need to have this up there. So
Amen.
We're going to see this afternoon where that ends up there. So,
amen.
Hey, great to talk to you guys.
Oh, okay.
Hey, man, thank you guys. Can't wait for you to get back home, Knox. But hey, guess what? We'll be back in Tennessee in September.
Yes.
So back in Tennessee in September at our Fight Laugh Feast conference, we got Pastor Vody Bakken coming, Doug Wilson. We got the Sheologians going to be out there. What? We got a lot going on. There's a lot more rolling out. You guys got to sign up now. You can go to our website right now, fightlaughfeast.com, click on the Tennessee conference under events and sign up. registration is going to be full.
If you can
full
find
house. We're going to be even fuller than the Southern Baptist Convention.
Oh!
Maybe not.
Hey, come home soon, Knox.
I'm on my way, man.
If you're single, get married.
If you're married,
you should make him do it.
Close us out, Knox.
Have kids, you guys might want to close your ears. Go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and truth. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.